I've been poor and I've been wealthy. And here's what I learned. Wealth isn't just about money. It's about who you become on the way to earning it. It isn't harder to follow the rules than it is to stay broke. Struggle takes effort. Worry drains energy. Debt weighs heavy. The cost of staying average is higher than the cost of building wealth. But only one of those paths gives you freedom. And that's why we're here. Not for quick tricks or overnight miracles. We're here for the quiet rules that have built fortunes for generations. 6 rules, simple, steady, unassuming. And if you live by them, wealth will not need to be chased. It will simply have no choice but to find you. I've been poor and I've been wealthy, and here's what I learned. Money doesn't change you, it exposes you. If you're careless with $10, you'll be reckless with 10,000. If you're irresponsible when the stakes are low, you'll be disastrous when they rise. That's why the foundation of wealth is not a sudden windfall, not a lottery ticket, not even a brilliant business idea. It's habits, daily habits, the tiny disciplines that no one sees and no one applauds. You see, most people think they'll get serious when they finally start making big money. They tell themselves, I'll start budgeting when I earn more. I'll save when I have extra. I'll be disciplined when it matters. But here's the truth. If you wait for more money to become disciplined, you'll never have more money, because money magnifies what's already there. If you've got chaos inside, money will just make it louder. If you've got order, it will make it stronger. I remember when I was barely scraping by, working those odd jobs, just trying to make rent. Someone told me, if you can't save a dime out of $1, you'll never save 100 out of 1,000. At first I laughed. What difference could a dime make? But that one sentence stuck with me. I realized the act of saving even a tiny amount wasn't about the amount. It was about the identity. It was about telling myself, I am a person who saves even when it's hard. That's where wealth begins, not in the bank account, but in the mind and in the habits you live by every single day. Start with the smallest transactions. That cup of coffee, that online impulse buy, that subscription you forgot you had. It's not that those dollars will make you rich, it's that noticing them will teach you control. Discipline is a muscle. You train it with what's right in front of you. If you can say no to a $5 temptation, you're building the strength to say no to a $50,000 mistake. And if you can commit to saving 10% of even the smallest paycheck, you're proving something powerful to yourself. That you don't wait for abundance to practice stewardship. You practice it first, and then abundance comes. Here's a practical challenge, one I gave myself years ago that changed everything. For the next 30 days, write down every single expense, all of it. The $2 coffee, the parking meter, the late night snack. Don't judge yourself, just track it. Because you can't change what you don't see. And when you see it, really see it, you start to notice patterns. You start to ask questions. Do I really need this? Could that dollar have gone to a better use? That awareness is the beginning of control, and control is the beginning of wealth. Then, add one more habit. Save 10% of everything you earn. It doesn't matter if it's $5 from mowing a lawn or $500 from a paycheck. 10% off the top. Make it automatic if you can. Because saving is not about the amount, it's about the ritual. It's about planting seeds. And here's what's beautiful. When you save first, even when it hurts, something shifts in your mind. You stop living as a victim of your circumstances and start living as a creator of your future. Too many people wait for some magical day when it's easier to save. That day never comes. Because life will always hand you another bill, another expense, another reason why you can't. You have to start when it's hard, because that's when the habit sticks. That's when you teach yourself that you, not your circumstances, are in control. Think of money like water. If you can't manage a trickle, how will you ever handle a flood? And think of wealth like a garden. If you can't plant and nurture seeds when they're small, you won't know what to do when the field is full. Start now. Start small. Start when it's uncomfortable. Because the habits you build when you have little are the same habits that will protect you when you have much. Here's the harsh truth. There's no shortcut here. You can study investments, real estate, business strategy, all of that matters. But if you don't have the habits, wealth will slip through your fingers. I've seen it happen over and over. People win the lottery and end up broke. People get an inheritance and lose it in a year. Why? Because money just made their bad habits louder. But I've also seen the opposite. People who started with almost nothing but built discipline around every dime, and when the big opportunities came, they were ready. Their habits held. So ask yourself, what are your habits saying about you? Are they telling the world and yourself that you're ready for wealth, or are they warning that if wealth came, you'd lose it? Because here's the secret. Wealth doesn't come to those who want it the most. It comes to those who prepare for it the best. Track every expense, save 10% of everything, practice discipline with even the smallest transactions. Not because those little amounts will make you rich, but because the person you become by doing it will. And when you've built the right habits, the wealth won't just come, it will stay. I've been poor and I've been wealthy, and here's what I learned. The difference between those who struggle and those who succeed often boils down to a simple but powerful rule: live on less than you earn. It sounds almost too obvious, yet it's the fundamental secret that most overlook. The wealthy understand this truth deeply. They don't live paycheck to paycheck, stretching every dollar until it screams. They build a margin, a buffer, between their income and their lifestyle. That margin is their safety net, their launch pad, their freedom. The broke, on the other hand, live beyond their means, chasing appearances, debts, and fleeting pleasures that only tighten the chains of financial struggle. When I was starting out, I made the mistake many do. When the money came in, I spent it as fast as it arrived, or even faster. I bought things to impress, to feel successful, to fill some inner void. But every time I did, I found myself empty-handed when real needs or opportunities appeared. It was like trying to fill a bucket with holes. No matter how much I poured in, it never held. Over time, I realized wealth isn't about how much you make, it's about what you keep. It's not the size of the income, it's the margin between your income and your expenses. Building that margin requires discipline and a shift in mindset. The wealthy don't just save what's left at the end of the month, they pay themselves first. They commit to saving a fixed percentage of every dollar they earn before touching the rest. This isn't just about money management, it's about respect for your future self. When you save first, you send a powerful message to your mind. I am responsible, I am prepared, I value my future freedom more than temporary gratification. Here's a practical step that changed everything for me. No matter how much I earned, I set aside a fixed percentage, 10%, as non-negotiable savings. That money was sacred. It was off limits for daily spending, emergencies, or temptations. Once that was done, I spent the remainder guilt-free. The peace that came from knowing I was building something larger than my immediate desires was priceless. And you don't need to start with 10%. Even 5 or 3% is better than zero. What matters most is consistency. Pay yourself first and live on the rest. This simple habit creates margin in your life, not just financially, but mentally. When you live below your means, you are never a prisoner to the next paycheck. You gain choices. Choices about where to work, when to say no, how to invest, and how to dream bigger. It's like planting a tree that grows shade and fruit over time. The more margin you build, the more your life expands in opportunity and peace. I've seen people struggle endlessly, even with decent incomes, simply because they lived as if they had more than they did. They financed lifestyles on credit cards, loans, and short-term thinking, hoping for a windfall that never came. When it didn't, stress and fear replaced joy. But I've also seen the opposite. People starting small, earning modest wages, but living deliberately below their means. They built a foundation of savings, then investments, then wealth. The key was margin, the gap between income and lifestyle that gave them freedom. Don't confuse living below your means with being cheap or missing out. It's not about deprivation. It's about control. It's choosing long-term wealth over short-term pleasure. It's deciding that you will not borrow from tomorrow's peace to buy today's illusion. When you live on less than you earn, you command your finances instead of being commanded by them. Think about it like this. A river that flows freely without obstacles nourishes the land and grows strong. But a river clogged with debris becomes stagnant, poisoned, and destructive. Your finances work the same way. When you create margin by living below your means, your wealth flows freely, building life and opportunity. Without margin, it stagnates, causing stress and struggle. Make a commitment today. Calculate your monthly income and decide what percentage you will save first. Protect that percentage with the same ferocity you protect your time and your relationships. Spend the rest without guilt or fear because you've done the hardest part. And watch as that simple rule, living on less than you earn, quietly transforms your life, creating freedom and abundance you once thought impossible. Remember, wealth is not a matter of luck or talent. It's a matter of margin and discipline. Create that margin, and you create your future. I've been poor and I've been wealthy, and here's what I learned. Consistency is the secret behind every fortune. Wealth doesn't come from random bursts of effort or fleeting motivation. It is built through steady, disciplined actions repeated over time. The most powerful way to ensure this consistency is to make your wealth building automatic. When you automate your savings and investments, you remove the guesswork, the excuses, and the temptations that so often derail good intentions. What happens automatically happens consistently. And consistency, my friends, is what compounds into real wealth. Early in my journey, I struggled with willpower. I'd say, I'll save this month, only to find myself spending it instead. I told myself I'd invest when I had more time or once things settled down. But life has a way of keeping us busy, distracted, and tempted. The truth is, motivation will come and go, but systems endure. The wise understand that relying on motivation alone is like trying to row a boat upstream with one oar. You'll get tired quickly, and the current will push you back. This is why automating your wealth is so critical. By setting up automatic transfers from your checking account to your savings or investment accounts, you create a system that works even when your mind forgets or your willpower weakens. This simple step removes the mental burden of deciding whether to save each month and make saving a non-negotiable act. When the money moves out automatically, you aren't even tempted to spend what you don't see. Think of it as paying yourself first, but on autopilot. When your paycheck arrives, a portion is already dedicated to your future, a portion that never touches your everyday spending. This is not just good financial practice, it's a discipline that rewires your thinking. You begin to see wealth as something that happens by design, not by chance or hope. It's a system you control, not a roll of the dice. Setting this system up is simpler than you might think. Most banks and financial platforms allow you to schedule recurring transfers, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. If you're investing, you can even arrange automatic contributions to retirement accounts or mutual funds. The important thing is to start. Even small amounts moved regularly will grow into something meaningful over time. I recall one story from my own life. Early on, I was paid weekly, and instead of waiting to see what was left at the end of the week, I arranged for $20 to transfer automatically to a savings account each payday. It wasn't much, but over the months, that small amount grew silently. One day, I realized that automatic discipline had quietly built a foundation for bigger opportunities. It wasn't flashy, no one noticed, but it was powerful. Automation also protects you from yourself. We are human, prone to impulsive decisions and emotional spending. When the system is set up, you remove the temptation to skip a savings month because you feel tired, stressed, or simply want to indulge. Your financial future doesn't depend on your daily mood, but on a system that moves steadily forward. Many people struggle because they treat saving and investing like a chore or a negotiation. If I save this month, I'll treat myself next month. But true wealth builders don't negotiate with their future. They protect it fiercely. Automation makes this possible. It turns saving from a discipline into a habit, and habits build character and wealth. If you want to outgrow financial struggle, don't rely on motivation or memory. Create a system that works, whether you feel like it or not. Automate your wealth. Set it and forget it. The magic of compounding interest and consistent saving will do the rest, quietly growing your fortune while you focus on your work, your family, and your dreams. Remember, wealth is a system, not a single event. Automate your savings and investments, and you automate your success. The path to riches is paved by small, consistent steps taken daily and compounded over time. When you make building wealth automatic, you make building freedom inevitable. I've been poor and I've been wealthy, and here's what I learned. One of the greatest divides between those who grow rich and those who remain struggling lies in what they choose to buy. It's not just about how much money you make, but what you do with the money once it's in your hands. The wealthy understand that money is a tool, and like any tool, it should be used to create more value, not to drain it away. The rich buy assets, the poor buy liabilities. This is a fundamental truth that, once embraced, can change your entire financial trajectory. Think about it philosophically. Every dollar you spend is either sent out as a soldier to earn more dollars or shackled as a slave to drag you down. When you purchase a fancy car, the moment you drive it off the lot, it loses value. It becomes a liability. When you buy expensive clothes or gadgets, they don't produce anything for you. They only consume your resources. But when you buy a rental property, invest in stocks that pay dividends, or purchase intellectual property that generates royalties, those purchases become assets. They work for you, grow in value, and put money back in your pocket often while you sleep. In my own life, this principle was a turning point. Early on, I saw people around me spending their hard-earned money on things that looked good but didn't last. Expensive cars, flashy gadgets, vacations they couldn't afford. Meanwhile, I chose to invest in books, courses, and a small piece of real estate. The returns didn't come overnight, but with patience and discipline, those assets began to build a foundation that supported greater opportunities. I watched how the money I invested created more money, while money spent on liabilities disappeared like smoke in the wind. This shift in thinking isn't just about money, it's about mindset. Before every purchase, ask yourself a simple but powerful question. Will this grow in value, or will it shrink? If it's the latter, then reconsider. It's not about denying yourself joy or comfort, but about prioritizing financial independence over fleeting pleasure. The strategy here is to commit to buying at least one income-producing asset each year. It could be a small investment in stocks, a share in a business, a piece of land, or even an online course that teaches you how to create wealth. The size of the asset doesn't matter as much as the habit of buying assets consistently. Over time, this habit will compound your wealth quietly but powerfully. Remember, wealth isn't about how much you spend, it's about what you spend on. The path to financial freedom is paved by assets, not possessions. Choose your purchases wisely. Make your money work for you. The rich don't just make money, they make money work for them. And that is the cornerstone of lasting wealth. I've been poor, and I've been wealthy. And here's what I learned. The way you think about time shapes the wealth you build. Too many people are caught in the trap of planning for the immediate, Friday night's pleasure, the next paycheck, the weekend's fun, never imagining what their life could look like years down the road. This short-term thinking is like planting seeds and pulling them out before they sprout. Wealth isn't made overnight. It's cultivated over decades. The real power lies in learning to think beyond the day, beyond the month, and into the future, imagining the person you want to be, the lifestyle you want to live, and the legacy you want to leave. When you shift your perspective from days to decades, you begin to see life as a series of deliberate choices rather than random events. I remember a time when I was hustling, just trying to make ends meet week by week. My focus was on immediate needs, putting food on the table, paying bills due tomorrow. But I noticed something. The wealthier people around me weren't working harder for the next meal, they were planning for the next decade. They had a vision so clear that their actions today were aligned perfectly with the results they wanted 10, 20, or even 30 years from now. This kind of thinking transforms the way you make decisions. When faced with a financial choice, it's not just about what feels good now or what the market trend says this month. Instead, it's about asking, will this move me closer to where I want to be in 10 years? It's the difference between spending money on fleeting pleasures or investing in assets that grow steadily and compound over time. It's about building skills and relationships that multiply your opportunities down the road. Every small action becomes part of a grander plan. To make this shift practical, start by writing down a 10-year financial vision. Don't just say, I want to be rich. Get specific. How much money do you want saved? What kind of lifestyle do you want? What kind of work do you see yourself doing? Visualize your day, your home, your health, your relationships. This vision is your compass. It guides you when temptation comes, knocking, or distractions pull you off course. Once you have that vision, break it down into smaller, manageable steps. What can you do this week that aligns with your 10-year goal? Maybe it's setting up a savings plan, learning about investing, or cutting unnecessary expenses. These tiny steps might feel insignificant now, but over time, they build momentum. It's like stacking bricks, one by one, until you have a strong, solid foundation. Thinking in decades also teaches patience and resilience. When setbacks happen, and they will, you understand they are just a part of the journey, not the end. You learn to keep your eyes on the horizon and remind yourself that wealth isn't a sprint but a marathon. The choices you make today may not show immediate results, but trust in the process, and they will reward you richly in time. In my life, this mindset was a game changer. It freed me from the anxiety of immediate survival and gave me a sense of purpose. I began to see that the richness I desired wasn't just about money, it was about freedom, growth, and the ability to give back. That clarity kept me disciplined and consistent even when the road was tough. So, I encourage you to think beyond the next meal or the next month. Look forward to the next decade and start living in a way that your future self will thank you for. Wealth is waiting on the other side of long-term thinking. Make today's decisions count for tomorrow's success. I've been poor and I've been wealthy, and here's what I learned. Too many people get caught up in the illusion that earning a big paycheck means they are wealthy. But the truth is, wealth isn't about how much you make, it's about what you keep and how you grow what you own. You could be making a lot of money yet still be broke, drowning in debts and living paycheck to paycheck. Real wealth is built quietly and steadily by those who understand that what you own matters far more than what you earn. Early on, I watched people come and go, some with impressive incomes but no financial stability, and others with modest earnings who steadily grew their net worth into something remarkable. What set them apart was not their paycheck. It was their understanding of their net worth, the difference between what they owned and what they owed. This number, this gap, is the true indicator of financial health. Yet, most people ignore it. They get caught in the rush to earn more, to spend more, and never take the time to track their financial progress. To change your financial story, you need to focus on your net worth, not just your income. Begin by listing everything you own, your savings, investments, property, vehicles, and any other assets that hold value. Then, list everything you owe, credit cards, loans, mortgages. The difference between these two totals is your net worth. This figure is the clearest measure of your financial position, your real wealth. Watching this number grow over time is far more meaningful than obsessing over monthly paychecks that come and go. It's not enough to know your net worth once or twice a year. Wealth building requires consistent attention and action. I recommend creating a simple spreadsheet, nothing complicated, where you update your assets and debts monthly. This practice builds awareness and accountability. It's like holding a mirror up to your financial life, revealing where you are and helping you make better decisions about where you want to go. Tracking your net worth also helps you identify bad habits or risky spending that may be silently draining your resources. It shows you if your debts are growing faster than your assets, signaling a red flag to act before it's too late. Conversely, seeing your net worth increase, even if slowly, motivates you to keep going. It turns wealth building into a visible, measurable journey rather than a vague hope. In my own journey, I began tracking my net worth regularly, and it changed everything. It made me conscious of every financial move I made. I stopped buying things just to impress others or fill temporary desires. Instead, I focused on acquiring assets that increased my net worth. I learned to be patient with growth, knowing the long game was where the real rewards lived. Remember, wealth isn't about flashy lifestyles or big paychecks. It's about the lasting value you build quietly and consistently. Take control of your financial future by tracking your net worth each month. Watch that gap widen and know that with every increase, you're moving closer to true financial freedom. I've been poor and I've been wealthy, and here's what I learned. Money, like any language, has its own rules and grammar. It's a system that, when understood, opens doors. When ignored, it locks them firmly shut. Money isn't just paper or numbers on a screen. It's a force that obeys laws as predictable as the rising Sunday. Yet many wander through life unaware of these laws, hoping for luck or a quick break, only to stay stuck in financial struggle. The reason so many people remain broke is not because they lack effort or desire, but because they simply haven't taken the time to learn the language of money. Imagine trying to build a house without knowing how to read blueprints or use tools. That's how it is with money when you don't understand its rules. You might earn well, but without grasping concepts like taxes, compounding interest, investing, or debt management, you can never truly build lasting wealth. I remember early in my life, working hard, yet always wondering why money seemed to slip away as fast as it came. It wasn't until I started reading, asking questions, and treating money as a subject to be mastered that my financial picture began to change. Just as you wouldn't dream of traveling to a foreign country without learning its language, you shouldn't navigate financial life without understanding money's vocabulary. The first step is simple but profound. Decide to become a student of money. Set aside time, maybe 30 minutes a day or a few hours a week, to study one financial topic deeply. Taxes can feel like a burden, but when you learn how to legally minimize what you owe, you keep more of what you earn. Compounding interest isn't just a math concept. It's the secret power that turns small savings into mountains of wealth over time. Real estate might seem daunting, but with knowledge, it becomes a vehicle to generate passive income and financial freedom. Treat this study like learning a new language. You wouldn't expect to be fluent overnight, but consistent effort builds mastery. Each month, pick one topic. Understand how the stock market works. Grasp the difference between assets and liabilities. Learn the pros and cons of different types of debt. Ask questions. Seek out books. Listen to experts. The more fluent you become, the more confident and empowered you'll feel when making financial decisions. Financial literacy transforms fear and uncertainty into opportunity. When you know the rules, you stop being a victim of circumstance and start being the author of your own financial story. Your income will follow your understanding. When you speak the language of money fluently, you spot chances others miss. You avoid traps others fall into. And best of all, you build wealth quietly, steadily, and surely. Remember, this journey is not about getting rich quick. It's about becoming rich steadily over time by mastering the fundamentals. This is the foundation on which all true wealth is built. It's the wisdom to know that money is a tool, a language, a system, and the best way to win is to understand it deeply. So start today. Pick your first financial topic. Open a book. Ask a question. Dedicate yourself to learning. The language of money is waiting for you to speak it, and once you do, the doors to lasting wealth swing wide open. Wealth is not an accident. It is a discipline. It is a language. It is yours to learn. I've been poor, and I've been wealthy. And here's what I learned. Debt itself is not the enemy. It's the way we handle it that determines whether it builds us up or tears us down. There's a common misconception that all debt is bad, that it's a chain that binds us to a life of financial struggle. But debt, when used wisely, can be a powerful tool for building wealth. The truth is, undisciplined debt, the kind that funds consumption, that pays for things that lose value, is the real danger. It's like fire, useful when controlled, destructive when wild. When I was starting out, I was terrified of debt. I thought avoiding it altogether was the safest path. But I soon learned that the wealthy don't fear debt, they respect it. They use it strategically to acquire assets that produce income, grow in value, or create opportunities. They understand that debt can work for them, not against them, if handled with discipline and wisdom. The first step is to look at every debt you have and label it honestly. Is this debt productive or destructive? Productive debt is money borrowed to buy or build something that increases in value or generates income. This could be a mortgage on a rental property, a business loan used to expand operations, or even student loans that lead to higher earning potential. Destructive debt, on the other hand, funds things that lose value or drain your resources, credit cards maxed out on vacations, cars that depreciate, or expensive gadgets bought on impulse. Once you identify destructive debt, commit to paying it off quickly. This is not just about numbers on a balance sheet, it's about freeing yourself from the psychological burden of owing money for things that don't serve your future. Eliminating destructive debt creates space in your budget and peace of mind, which are invaluable. At the same time, learn to manage productive debt wisely. Don't take on more than you can handle, and always have a clear plan for how this debt will generate returns. Many people avoid all debt and miss out on opportunities because they don't understand its power. Using debt to leverage your investments or business growth can accelerate your path to financial freedom. In my own life, I've seen how respectful use of debt opened doors I never thought possible. Early on, borrowing to invest in my education and business gave me the leverage to grow beyond what my savings alone could afford. It wasn't reckless borrowing. It was calculated, disciplined, and aligned with a vision for building lasting wealth. Remember, debt is a tool. Like any tool, it must be used with care, respect, and skill. Avoid the trap of fearing debt so much that you miss the chance to use it as a stepping stone. Instead, learn to distinguish between good and bad debt. Pay off the destructive quickly and use the productive strategically. This shift in mindset transforms debt from a weight around your neck into a powerful lever for wealth. You don't have to be afraid of debt. You just have to learn how to respect it and then use it to build the life you want. I've been poor and I've been wealthy, and here's what I learned. Time is the raw material from which wealth is crafted. You can make more money, but you cannot make more time. Every minute wasted is an opportunity lost. A moment that could have been invested in building your future, learning something new, or creating value. When I look back at my own journey, I realize the difference between struggle and success often boiled down to how I treated my time. People often think money is the most precious asset, but it's time. You can replace money, but you can never replace time. The wealthy understand this deeply. They protect their time as fiercely as a guard protects a treasure. Time wasted today is wealth lost tomorrow. The poor trade their time for money, often in ways that don't grow their freedom. The wealthy trade their ideas and skills to multiply their time's value. creating leverage and freedom. So, what does it mean to protect your time like cash? It starts with awareness. The first step is auditing your daily hours. Most of us spend many dead hours without even realizing it, scrolling endlessly through social media, watching television mindlessly, or sitting in traffic without purpose. These are the moments that silently drain our potential. I suggest tracking every hour for a week. Write down what you do and how you feel during each activity. Once you see where your time goes, you can take action. Cut out one dead hour each day. That might mean setting limits on screen time or getting up earlier to work on your goals before distractions creep in. Reclaiming this time is not about deprivation. It's about investing in yourself. Use that hour to learn a skill that enhances your value, start a side hustle, or simply plan your next step toward wealth. Even 30 minutes of focused effort daily can compound into significant progress over months and years. When I was building my life, I made the decision to treat time as my most valuable currency. I protected it with discipline and purpose. Instead of passing hours mindlessly, I invested them in reading, planning, and practicing. This simple shift created momentum that led to breakthroughs. I learned that how I managed my minutes directly affected the size of my bank account and the quality of my life. Remember, time is more than hours on a clock. It's the foundation for everything you want to create. Protect it, respect it, and use it wisely. When you do, wealth won't just be a dream. It will be a natural outcome of how you live each day. The question is, what will you do with your time today? I've been through the trenches of financial struggle, and I've tasted the sweetness of financial freedom. What I've learned is this: the road to wealth is not just about the numbers or the accounts. It's about how well you understand your own money story and how much you take ownership of it. One of the biggest mistakes people make is outsourcing all their money thinking. They hand over the reins to advisors or experts and hope for the best. But let me tell you, blind trust in others to manage your financial life is a risk you can't afford. Money advisors can be helpful, no doubt about that. They bring expertise, experience, and tools that many of us don't have. But here's the truth: the final responsibility always rests with you. If you don't understand the basics of what's going on with your money, you might be led down a path that serves someone else's interest more than your own. That's why it's crucial to know enough about fees, contracts, investments, and the language of money so you can ask the right questions and make wise decisions. Think of it this way: if you were about to buy a house, would you sign the papers without reading the contract? Would you buy a car without understanding the financing terms? Then why do so many people trust their financial future to others without even glancing at the fine print? Knowledge empowers you to negotiate better, to recognize red flags, and to make choices aligned with your goals. Here's a simple strategy I suggest. Dedicate at least 1 hour this month to learning about one aspect of money management. It could be understanding how mutual fund fees work, the difference between good debt and bad debt, or how your investment returns are calculated after taxes. This small investment of your time pays off in confidence and better decisions down the line. In my own journey, I once signed up for a retirement plan without fully grasping the fees involved. It wasn't until I took time to educate myself that I realized how those fees were quietly eating into my returns. I was able to make adjustments, save thousands, and accelerate my path to financial independence. That hour I spent learning became priceless. The philosophy here is simple but powerful. Never hand over control without understanding the steering wheel. Your money, your rules, advisors are guides, but you must be the driver. This mindset shift from passive to active involvement changes everything. It moves you from being a passenger, hoping for a smooth ride, to being the captain charting your course with confidence. Remember, wealth isn't just about accumulating dollars, it's about mastering the game. And mastery begins with understanding the rules, asking questions, and making decisions that serve your long-term vision. Don't outsource your financial destiny. Own it. Let this be your call to action. Carve out that time this month. Dive into the knowledge you need, and never be afraid to challenge or question what you hear. The smartest investors are not those who know everything, but those who know enough to protect and grow what they have. Control your money thinking, and you control your future. I've walked the path where every dollar felt like a struggle to hold on to, and I've also stood in the place where money works for me instead of against me. One of the toughest lessons along that journey is learning to say no without guilt. It sounds simple, but it's a mindset that separates those who quietly build wealth from those who live paycheck to paycheck. Here's the philosophy. Every time you say yes to something unnecessary, a dinner out, a gadget you don't need, a night at the bar, you are in fact saying no to your future financial freedom. Money, time, and energy are all resources, and just like a guard watches over a treasure, you must guard your resources fiercely. Saying no is not about being stingy or miserable. It's about being strategic. It's about choosing where your dollars and your moments will create the greatest return. Too often people fall into the trap of spending because they feel pressure, social pressure, emotional pressure, or just the impulse of the moment. But that impulse can cost you decades of financial progress if you're not careful. I remember when I was starting out, every invitation felt like a must. Every sale felt like a steal. But when I started practicing saying no, politely but firmly, I found my savings growing, my stress shrinking, and my options widening. The strategy is simple. Guard your resources. That means not only your money, but your time and energy as well. These are the building blocks of your future. If you waste them on fleeting pleasures, you lose the power to invest in what truly matters. Saying no to unnecessary expenses frees up capital for your wealth-building journey. Saying no to time wasters frees up hours you can use to learn, grow, or create. Here's a practical step you can take immediately. For the next week, commit to saying no at least once to an unnecessary expense or outing. It might be skipping a coffee run, passing on an expensive lunch, or declining a social event that doesn't serve your goals. Then take that saved money and put it into your savings or investment account. Watch what happens when you redirect even a small amount consistently. Remember, the power of no isn't just about money, it's about the discipline and self-respect you build. Saying no without guilt means you're choosing your future over momentary gratification. It's the hallmark of someone who understands that wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. The call to action here is this. Start today, practicing the art of saying no with grace and purpose. It will feel uncomfortable at first, but it becomes easier with every yes you replace with a no. Your future self will thank you for every moment and every dollar you chose to protect. Master the no, and you'll find the yeses that matter, those that lead to freedom, security, and lasting wealth. I've seen firsthand that how you handle small amounts of money says everything about how you'll handle large sums. The truth is, if you mishandle $5 today, you're very likely to mishandle $50,000 tomorrow. Money magnifies character, and your relationship with small money reveals what happens when the stakes get bigger. That's a hard but invaluable lesson. Wealth is often lost in the details, not in grand gestures. Philosophically, money is not just a tool or a means to an end. It is a mirror reflecting your discipline, your respect, and your values. When you dismiss small amounts as insignificant, you are training yourself to disregard responsibility. But wealth is rarely built overnight by reckless spending or careless habits. It's quietly grown by those who treat every dollar like it matters, regardless of the size. The strategy here is simple yet profound. Build respect for every dollar. Think about it. Not a single coin is insignificant in the grand journey toward financial freedom. If you treat $5 as worthless, you cultivate a mindset that leaves you vulnerable to waste when more money comes your way. On the other hand, when you develop respect for every cent, you prepare yourself mentally to handle abundance wisely. In my own life, early on, I made the mistake of brushing off small expenses. I'd grab a quick snack or a coffee without thinking, convinced it didn't matter. But over time, those small leaks added up and drained resources I could have invested in my future. When I learned to track every penny, even the $2 coffee, it changed everything. Suddenly, I became aware of where my money was going, and that awareness brought power. Here's the practical step I want you to take. For the next 30 days, track every single expense, no matter how small. Write it down or use an app. Make it a daily habit. See what your coffee, snacks, or impulse purchases add up to. When you see the real numbers, your mindset shifts from carelessness to control. You start thinking twice before spending, and that thinking makes all the difference. This practice is more than just record keeping. It's about training yourself to value money as a precious resource, not something to be wasted. It's about building habits that prepare you for bigger financial responsibilities. When you respect small money, you lay the foundation for wealth that lasts. The key takeaway? Never underestimate the power of small dollars. How you treat small amounts today sets the tone for the wealth you will build tomorrow. Begin this practice and watch how your relationship with money transforms, because success is a collection of small, wise choices, not luck or luck alone. Master this habit, and you master your financial future. I've been poor, and I've been wealthy, and here's what I learned. Willpower is a fleeting flame, bright for a moment, but easily extinguished by temptation or fatigue. That's why relying solely on willpower to manage your money is like trying to cross a stormy sea with a leaky boat. It's bound to sink you before long. Instead, the truly wealthy build unbreakable rules, boundaries that don't require negotiation or debate, rules that act as the sturdy rails guiding their financial train safely along its tracks. You see, the moment you say, maybe this time I can skip saving, or just this once I'll borrow for something I want, you're stepping onto a slippery slope. Willpower might carry you through for a day or a week, but eventually life's pressures and distractions will wear it down. That's why setting clear, hard financial rules is essential. It's not about being rigid or harsh. It's about creating a framework that protects you from your own impulses and keeps your future secure. When I first began my journey, I realized early on that if I didn't make saving a non-negotiable rule, something I did first before paying bills or buying anything, I would always find a reason not to do it. So, I established a rule. I always save first, no exceptions. The money was automatically set aside as soon as it came in. This simple rule saved me from the endless temptation of spending what I hadn't even had a chance to save yet. It took the decision-making out of the equation, making discipline effortless. Another powerful rule is to never borrow money for wants, only for needs or investments. Credit cards and loans can be a dangerous trap when used for things that don't build your future. When you borrow to buy a new gadget, a flashy car, or a luxury trip without the means to pay for it, you're essentially digging a hole that becomes harder and harder to climb out of. But if you borrow only for something that generates income or increases your net worth, debt becomes a tool, not a burden. Hard rules work because they don't require motivation or a good mood to follow. They become automatic guardrails that prevent poor choices. Imagine driving a car with a guardrail on a steep mountain road. You don't have to constantly remind yourself to stay on the path. The guardrail does it for you. Your financial rules are your guardrails. Here's a practical step I encourage you to take today. Write down 2 or 3 financial rules you will never break. Make them clear and simple. For example, I will always save at least 10% of my income before spending, or I will never borrow money to buy things that don't produce income. Post these rules where you can see them every day. Let them become a part of who you are. Remember, building wealth isn't about grand gestures. It's about the quiet, consistent actions that create momentum over time. Rules eliminate the mental struggle and reduce mistakes. They give your financial future structure and protection, and they ensure that when temptation knocks, you're ready with a firm no. This is how the rich think. They build habits and boundaries that keep them on track without the daily battle of willpower. When you adopt money rules you never break, you transform your relationship with money from one of reaction to one of control. You become the master of your finances rather than their servant. And that, my friend, is the foundation upon which lasting wealth is built. I've been poor and I've been wealthy, and here's what I learned. True wealth is never just about accumulation, it's about contribution. You see, there's a powerful, almost paradoxical truth in the way the universe handles money. Those who give freely often find their wealth multiplying, while those who hoard and consume find their resources dwindling. It's not just about money flowing out, it's about value flowing back. Wealth grows when you add value to others' lives before expecting something in return. From my own experience, I can tell you that the mindset of contribution is the secret ingredient many overlook. Early in my life, I thought if I didn't hold on tightly to every penny, I'd lose everything. But as I began giving, whether it was money, time, or knowledge, I noticed something remarkable. Doors opened, relationships deepened, opportunities appeared that I could never have planned. Giving creates a kind of energy that expands your circle of influence and multiplies your blessings. Generosity isn't about waiting until you have a surplus. It's about making giving a deliberate practice, even when money feels tight. That's where discipline and faith come into play. When you commit to giving a small percentage of your income, whether it's 1%, 5%, or 10%, you're not just helping others. You're programming your mind and heart to think in terms of abundance, not scarcity. This small act of contribution sends a signal to your subconscious. There is enough for everyone, including you. Think of it like planting seeds in a garden. You don't hoard the seeds hoping to keep them all. You plant them, water them, and tend to them patiently. In time, that garden will flourish, producing a harvest far greater than the initial seed. Your generosity is that seed. The more you give, the more you build a foundation for wealth that's not just material, but meaningful and sustainable. Here's a practical step to start today. Commit to giving a small, fixed percentage of your income regularly, no matter what. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but that's the growth point. When you make generosity non-negotiable, it becomes a habit that rewires your thinking. You'll find yourself noticing new ways to add value, new connections to cultivate, and new streams of income flowing back to you. Generosity also guards against one of the greatest traps of wealth, greed, and selfishness. When you contribute, you stay humble, grounded, and connected to what really matters. Money is not just a tool for personal gain. It's a resource for creating impact, for lifting others, and for building a legacy far beyond your lifetime. So, as you work to grow your wealth, remember this: contribute before you consume. Make generosity a pillar of your financial philosophy. Because when you give first, you unlock a cycle of abundance that no scarcity mindset can ever crack. This is how real wealth is built, not just quietly, but powerfully and lastingly. I've been poor and I've been wealthy, and here's what I learned. The real value of work is not in the paycheck you receive, but in the lessons you gather along the way. Most people work just to earn, clocking in, punching out, and focusing only on the money in their pocket. But those who truly rise understand that jobs are classrooms, and every task is an opportunity to grow. The fortune you build doesn't come from a paycheck alone. It comes from the skills, knowledge, and wisdom you accumulate while working. When I first started, I thought every job should be about the immediate dollar. But life taught me differently. The jobs and projects that paid the least often ended up teaching me the most. I remember taking on roles that stretched me beyond my comfort zone. Roles that didn't always bring instant financial reward, but introduced me to new skills, new ways of thinking, and new people. These lessons compounded, and years later, they became the foundation of my success. The philosophy is simple but profound. If you want your income to rise, you must first raise your value. Value isn't just a number on a paycheck. It's the sum of your skills, your mindset, and your ability to solve problems. When you treat work as an opportunity to learn, you invest in yourself because your personal growth will attract bigger opportunities and bigger rewards. There's a subtle but critical shift here. Don't just ask, how much will this pay? But ask, what will this teach me? If you can say yes to projects or courses that expand your skills, even if the immediate pay isn't impressive, you're setting yourself up for long-term wealth. The investments in your education and experience pay dividends that no market crash or economic downturn can take away. For practical steps, look around your current situation. Is there a project at work you've been hesitant to take on because it seems challenging or outside your expertise? Say yes. Is there a course or workshop that can sharpen your skills, even if it costs money or time? Commit to it. These small decisions are what separate those who stay stuck from those who move ahead. The truth is, the richest people I know never stopped learning. They didn't just collect paychecks. They collected knowledge, wisdom, and skills. They understood early that jobs are temporary, but learning and growth are permanent investments. When you work to learn, not just to earn, you're building a legacy of value that money alone cannot buy. So I encourage you to shift your perspective. Treat every job, every task, and every challenge as a stepping stone, not just for income, but for growth. Say yes to learning, even when the immediate payoff is unclear. Your future self will thank you because the skills you develop today are the foundation for the fortune you build tomorrow. I've been poor and I've been wealthy, and here's what I learned. Wealth is not simply about possessing money. It's about how wisely you manage what you have. Many people think owning money is the goal, but owning without stewardship is like having a garden and neglecting to water it. True wealth demands that you think not just as an owner, but as a steward, someone who cares for, nurtures, and grows their resources responsibly. When I first started on my journey, I believed that once money came in, it was mine to spend freely. But the hard lessons came quickly. I saw how quickly wealth could slip through careless hands. It's not enough to just make money, you must manage it with discipline, attention, and purpose. Stewardship means respecting what you have and making it work for you, not against you. This philosophy shifts your mindset from one of entitlement to one of responsibility. Money is a tool, a resource entrusted to you, not just to enjoy, but to grow and preserve. When you think like a steward, you ask, how can I make this money work harder? How can I protect it? How can I ensure it serves me longer? This approach encourages patience, prudence, and long-term planning, qualities that are essential for lasting financial success. In practical terms, stewardship means reviewing your finances regularly, weekly if possible, and asking yourself tough questions. Am I spending wisely? Am I saving enough? Am I investing in things that will grow my wealth rather than drain it? You learn to spot waste, avoid unnecessary risks, and prioritize what truly matters. It's like tending a garden. Without consistent care, weeds grow and fruits rot. But with attention and nurturing, the garden flourishes year after year. I remember early on setting aside time each week to review my expenses, my investments, and my goals. This habit kept me grounded and focused. It stopped me from making impulsive decisions and helped me catch small leaks before they turned into big holes. Over time, this simple discipline made a profound difference. So I urge you to adopt this steward's mindset. Wealth isn't a game of quick wins. It's a marathon of careful, consistent management. You don't just own money, you are entrusted with it. Be faithful in that trust, and you'll find your resources growing quietly, steadily, and surely. Remember, it's not about how much you have, but how well you manage what you've been given. Take care of your money, and it will take care of you. I've been poor and I've been wealthy, and here's what I learned. The real difference wasn't just the money, it was who I became in the process. Poverty taught me humility, but wealth taught me responsibility. And what I discovered is that wealth is not an event, it's a transformation. It's not winning the lottery or stumbling into a lucky break. It's about changing how you think, how you act, how you live, day by day, choice by choice. Here's the truth most people don't want to face. You don't become rich by accident. You build wealth quietly, consistently, like laying bricks one at a time. You don't see much progress in the first week, or even the first year. But one day you look up and there's a wall, a structure, a fortress you built around your family and your future. Too many people quit before they see the wall because they don't trust the process. They look for shortcuts, for instant results, for comfort today, and they trade away their tomorrow. But here's what I want you to remember. Every dollar you save, every habit you form, every book you read about money, it all counts. It all compounds. Small disciplines create big freedoms. Wealth isn't about making one brilliant move. It's about refusing to make the same careless ones over and over again. I can tell you this from experience. There was a time I blamed my circumstances. I blamed the economy, my boss, even my upbringing. But one day I realized no one was coming to rescue me. No one was going to walk through my door and hand me a better life. If I wanted change, it had to start with me. That day was the turning point. That day, I decided to stop waiting and start building. And slowly, brick by brick, the life I wanted began to take shape. So if you've been feeling stuck, if you've been looking at your finances and thinking, it'll never change, I have good news. It can change, but it won't change by hope alone. It changes with habits. It changes with rules you refuse to break. It changes when you stop treating money as something that slips through your fingers and start treating it as something you guide, direct, and multiply. Let me ask you something. How would your life look if, starting today, you made a non-negotiable rule to save first and spend later? What if you decided that every raise, every bonus, every windfall wasn't permission to upgrade your lifestyle, but an opportunity to upgrade your future? What if you stopped asking, what can I buy? And started asking, what can I build? Because that's the secret the wealthy understand. Money isn't just for consuming, it's for creating. Creating assets, creating opportunities, creating security, creating freedom. And when you live like that, something magical happens. Your life stops being reactive and starts being intentional. Now here's the call to action, and I'm going to make it simple. Decide today what rules will govern your financial life. Write them down. Maybe it's, I always save 10%. Maybe it's, I never borrow for once. Maybe it's, I read one book about money every month. They don't have to be dramatic, but they have to be non-negotiable. Because when willpower fades, rules stand firm. Second, start small. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait until you're making more money, or until the kids are grown, or until the bills feel lighter. Start with the $10 in your pocket, because if you can't manage $10, you'll never manage $10,000. Wealth doesn't start when you earn more. It starts when you respect what you already have. Third, audit your time. Time is the raw material of wealth. If you waste hours, you waste fortune. Find 1 hour a day, just one, that you can reclaim from distraction and redirect into something that builds your future. Read, learn, build, create. That 1 hour, compounded over years, will change everything. Finally, think long term. The poor plan for Friday night, the wealthy plan for 2035. I want you to write a vision for your life 10 years from now, financially, personally, emotionally, and then reverse engineer it. Ask yourself, what must I start doing this week, this month, this year to get there? Because the future isn't a mystery, it's a direction. Here's the truth I came to understand. Wealth isn't loud. Real wealth doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to show off. It grows quietly, like a seed in the soil. And if you take care of that seed, if you water it with discipline, feed it with knowledge, and protect it with boundaries, it will grow into something strong and unshakable. And one day you'll wake up and realize you've done it. You'll look back at the small decisions, the quiet sacrifices, the rules you kept when it would have been easier to break them, and you'll see how they built the life you wanted. So here's my final word. Don't just wish for wealth. Don't just talk about wealth. Build it quietly, consistently, relentlessly. Make the shift today from consumer to creator, from spender to steward, from dreamer to doer. Because wealth isn't just something you get, it's something you become. And the moment you decide to become that person, your journey to real, lasting wealth has already begun.